let's just sew whatever. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making the Rachel handbag from Sincerely Jen Patterns. All the materials I use are available on my website, mormino.com. Hardware, vinyl, interfacing too. Well, I had a blast making this bag. It has two slip pockets on the outside that are sneaky little sneakies. It has a zipper closure along the top that is nice and secure. It has two D-rings on the inside for a crossbody strap. It has two D-rings on the outside to hang like charms if you want. You can omit them. The inside has a sectioned slip pocket there and then a zippered slip pocket. And yours will have a bottom, but mine does not because I forgot to cut it. And it's too late for me to care, so I'll finish it another time. So hopefully you can get through this with me. I think it's a fun one. I absolutely love the vinyls I picked. They look just simple, but then you're like, whoop. All right, if you're not already subscribed, please do. And here we go. We are gonna get started on making our Rachel handbag. I am so in love with this bag, as I am with most things that Jenny does. Just a regular old fangirl. But I'm really excited to make this bag. She debuted it at Sew Whatever Studio for a mystery sew, and I was not in the room, sadly, when she showed it. But we do have it on camera because we have security cameras in the room. So I'm really glad that I could watch it there because everyone, it was so good. They weren't watching necessarily, and she showed it, and then everyone's like, oh my God, look guys, look. And then everybody clapped and was excited. So it's so fun. I'm very proud of you, Jenny, for teaching your first class and enjoying it and trusting me to be the one that hosted your class. So you've already seen the bag. This is the first one I made, and my machine was broken at the time, but I did fix it, but it's time to remake. Let's get into it. So we're gonna start by making our straps and handles. I've got those down in here. I am doing a double-sided crossbody strap and double-sided handle, and we are just going to pretend that I have enough hardware to make the crossbody strap. Spoiler alert, I don't, but that's okay. We're just gonna pretend. So the pattern doesn't necessarily call for double-sided crossbody strap, but you're repeating the same process as you did for the handles. All of the materials I'm using are available to purchase at some point via my website, mormino.com. This pattern is available at sincerelyjen.com. I am using an industrial sewing machine, a Juki 1181. I use a size 19 needle. I'm using Tex 90 thread currently. I don't notice that big of a difference between Tex 70 thread and Tex 90. There are just more colors available in Tex 70. My favorite thread is the Amon Strong Bond, and I usually purchase through Sunny Sewing Machine, but other places sell it as well. I also really enjoy the hardware from Melissa, not hardware from Melissa, because we have the same supplier, but the thread from Melissa at geekyhardware.com. She has fun variegated threads. So that is my little spiel there. If you wanted to cut one piece to 1.75 and one to 1.5, it would be like a cute little pop on the side of your accent material. Sorry, I forgot what vinyl I cut, and I'm like, ah, gorgeous. It's beautiful. This is a to-be-released Luxe vinyl called Fairy Luxe. That's what we're going with. When I am taping my straps, I like to work from the center out when possible. I just find it gives a more even finish. I recently rearranged my drawers over here, and so I'm like, where's my tape? So I'm applying 1/4 inch double-sided tape down the center. You don't want a tape that is going to be so wide that it shows up where you're stitching. Otherwise it could gum up your needle. So I'm trying to use with caution. You are not going to see the ends of this strap. It's going to be hidden down in the seam, so you don't need to worry about them being absolutely perfectly lined up. And you don't need to worry about having beautiful top stitching across the bottom of your strap. And then you kind of get to decide if you want your handles to be print out or solid out. You do have to pick though. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from doing both. Having one way, one the other, but it's not as intended. So I am taping over that center seam to help prevent any popping open. And you just want to lay these right on top of each other. I've got my hands kind of like I'm using my fingers along the side to act as a little guide to make sure they're even. And then using about a stitch length of 5, I'm just going to start at one end and sew down the side. And then we can go across the bottom edge here. If you are using a domestic machine and you want to use vinyl for your handles, you could also use cotton for the contrast, maybe just add a little bit of interfacing. And then it won't be as bulky, but you'll still get that more elevated look using vinyl if you want. I am using a mid-weight printed Luxe, and then like I said, a Luxe vinyl on the back of the straps. And I would compare our mid-weight printed Luxe to the thickness of a quality cork. It doesn't have any stretch to it, which is nice. Okay, so peeling the back off, and then like I said, I'm just kind of starting in the middle, working my way out. And I have one hand that's taping and one hand that's pressing. And I'm just applying pressure with my fingers and my nails and keeping that as close to the line as possible without going over it. And there really shouldn't be any twisting in your strap as you're doing this. If it is, you might be stretching it a little too much as you're pressing instead of just allowing the fabrics to fold. So you can see it's sitting nice and flat. And then some vinyls just have a tendency to be stretchier, so you may want to apply interfacing Or I know some people will also stabilize their strap with a little strip of like waterproof canvas, just something really durable, non-woven. That'll give it a little extra oomph. I think I've seen in manufactured handbags, they use like a grosgrain ribbon, essentially. I didn't tape perfectly down the center when I did this, so some parts may lift a little. This definitely is tedious and takes time, but the more you do it, the quicker you get. You could use a seam roller too if you just don't have enough arm or hand strength, because it definitely takes some shoulder strength, which not everybody has. Just slowly taping. And you don't want to completely butt them up against each other. Mostly when you're folding a strap, actually, you don't want to do that. But you want to think too, these vinyls have a thickness to them, and that thickness takes up surface area in the fold. So you want to give just a little bit of a gap, if you can, in between, so that your materials sit closer in width to the same size. So like here, I'm kind of jumping over a couple inches and pressing down. And that'll prevent me from like stretching it out as well, because it's got a little bend to it, but it could be the way it was stored. So let's see if we can't get that all to sit flat. I think it'll be fine. All right, so with this, I really don't want to tape the whole thing. I find that too much tape can take away the flexibility of your materials, so I'm going to hope for the best. I'm going to start it lined up. I'll just kind of hold it in between my hands. You could also do this with webbing, where you use like a 1-inch webbing and add a vinyl contrast. That'll help prevent bulk while also just making it just a little different. So then this side will be much quicker because everything's already held together. And as I'm doing that, I'm just applying pressure. You wouldn't want to do that with a domestic, but an industrial is like pulling everything away from you to be a bit more efficient. So at this point you would attach your slide adjuster and your snap hooks, but I only have a slide adjuster, so that's all I will be adding right now. But I start with a slide adjuster. I'm going to pick which side I want to be the wrong side of the strap, and I think I want the solid to be the wrong side. So I'm going to take my slide adjuster wrong side up as well and slide that around the center bar. And I'm just going to do 2 lines of stitching, back stitching, jump over, and sew that again. I don't care if it looks super, super pretty. It just needs to hold because that's going to be hidden once we add our slide adjuster to this side and then go up and over and then add our slide adjuster or your other snap hook, I'm sorry. So you'd have 2 snap hooks and you're done. But we don't have those. I'll get them from work later. Okay. Now we're going to grab our center panels, which have a taper towards the top. We're going to grab our lower panels, which these names may not be accurate, I apologize, but you're going to want a total of 6 pieces all together. All together now. So we're going to start by laying our lower or bottom panel with the curve going towards the top because the straight edge should be together. You could use 1/8" tape to hold this, but we're just going to clip it. And if you need to, you can mark your centers and line those up. And then double check that taper should match. That should match, and it should be tapered towards the top. Okay, this is my curved edge, so that needs to go up at the top. We're kind of reverse engineering what's happening here. And you'll notice I'm not referencing the pattern, but eventually I should. Okay, there's that. And then while I'm here, I'm going to decide where is the front, and I think this is going to be the front with the bow. This has a lot of flowers in a row, so I don't want that. So this tapers towards the top, so that needs to be face down because once we sew it together, flip it up, there it is, you know. So we'll line that up too. Find the centers if you'd like. Mine is covered in cat hair. Thank you, Evermore. You're just so generous. And then whatever is your front is where you want the piece with your bow stabilizer. And that is going to be centered as well. Keep in mind that tapered edge. And this panel does not have any additional interfacing. It just really doesn't need it. We're going to add some structure to it. So now we're going to sew the top and the bottom at a 3/8 inch seam allowance and maybe a 4.5. All right, these are in the wrong place. Stitch length if you'd like. And back stitch at the beginning and the end. And then we do it again. And then the only thing that we are allowed to top stitch is that bottom panel at the moment. We're going to fold that down and top stitch through the bulk. If you're worried about how bulky your materials are here at the side, you could do that little bulk reduction technique from Knotted Threads Co. where you snip at the side and lay that flat as you go to sew it together. and that will just reduce the bulk within your seam allowance. I don't feel like my materials require it, but sometimes it just gives a cleaner look. And I'm just pressing that down. And that is the only one we are allowed to top stitch right now. If you want to finger press that, you can, just to help train it. So again, this piece with Decaville Light, that is what we are allowed to top stitch. I did already mark the center at the bottom because I knew we were going to be adding our bottom panel to the bag. This white thread is really good with this. All right, so on that bow center, we need to mark a 1/4 inch from the top, a 1/4 inch from the bottom, and then technically an 1/8 of an inch from the sides. That 1/8 inch on the sides is not necessary, but I feel like it's just a little less mental work to figure out where your 1/2 inch amount is going to be. So we've got our little rectangle, and we're going to just cut the, not the sides, the top and the bottom, only 1/2 an inch. Carefully. You may want to do this before you attach it, which, I mean, in the instructions it says to do. But I was like, I can just attach it and do it slowly. I trust my seam ripper like this. We've been together a really long time, but the old Tula Pink blade for some reason is more scalpel, less talon. So I find this much easier to use than the literal talon. Raptor claw. It's intense, man. Okay, so we've got those. If they're not quite lined up or long enough, we can just do a really careful little snip. Yeah, that's good now. Okay, we can set these aside right now. This is where I should refer to the pattern. I got this far. Oh my God, I didn't even make the bow get out of here. I have everything for it. Oh, doing great. Okay, here's everything for my bow. I already taped this together. What we're gonna do is we're gonna leave off the arms of these goggles. And we are only stitching the ovals. And then if you would like to stitch down the center of your bow center, you can. During class, we had some people that did, some people that didn't. And I feel like that is something you could also maybe stabilize with a little piece of waterproof canvas if you wished. Okay, so we're gonna just sew around like the diagram in the pattern shows. I'm going to start over here on the side. And this is a raw edge bow, so if you wanted to and you had the time, you could edge coat this. When I first made this bag, I did not pay attention to how this was sewn or cut, so don't make my mistake. And I'm holding my hand wheel to help me go even slower, and I'm using my reverse lever to help me land in the place I want to stop. You will see the top stitching on the bow sides. You're really not going to see that top stitching near the center lines. So if you want to pull back, tie off, you can, but it's not necessary. I say as I do it. I decided to do 1/2 print, 1/2 solid, just so I could maybe decide if I want to have the print or the solid. Tie that off, trim that away. All right, and now we're going to very carefully cut around the outside edge. And I like to start at the end of my scissors, slowly working my way around the curve. And do not cut through your other layer. Like I said, you could edge coat this if you wanted to. And just cut the whole thing for now, but then we do end up cutting off half of the front and half of the back of the arms. And this diagram is so detailed because I told Jenny, hey, I just fully cut off one whole side because I didn't read it. All right, so we've got that. Oh, that's not trash. Got that cut, so we're going to cut the front on this side and the back on this side. Because now when we bring it together here in the center, it's not as bulky. Everything lines up. So here I get to decide like that. Or like that. I don't know. I feel like I didn't hide my stitches well enough, so they're gonna hang out if I have it like this. So I'll do the printed side, and I'm gonna use a little bit of double-sided tape, but you could even use a dab of glue. To line these up over the center. I think I changed the order of this in my mind because I was like, wait, you're gonna make me make the bow and then I have to set it aside for later? Are you kidding me? No, when I make that bow, I wanna use it. I'll put it in that bag. All right. All right. Yeah. Okay. Still setting that aside, but now we're gonna grab our handles. And I want my handles to be printed side up when it's flipped. So it'll be like, shoot. So they need to be solid side face up for me right now. So we're gonna re-find the center and just make a little tiny snip at the top. And then we're gonna use the measurements in the pattern, and those are gonna vary based on whether or not you're making the tote size or the handbag size. So keep that in mind. And the handles are going to be lined up on the outside of this line. And then we are going to put a D-ring on each side. This is completely optional. But it is fun. She only has it because it's a really big trend right now to like add little charms to your bag. So, like I said, it's completely optional, up to you. And then just make sure there is no twisting in your strap. Yeah, and it doesn't matter right now where your D-ring is, as long as it's through the handle, because you're going to rivet those down later. So again, just so long as you have the D-ring present. Oh, outside of that line. Yeah, just making sure I did it correctly. And then we've got a nice swoop. Nice curve, so we're coming close to the line we created. Lining up the handle outside of it and continuing stitching. So now we can set that aside. I'm going to grab our upper accent pieces and two those bigger pieces. We'll have 4 of these, and they're going to be 10 inches wide by 8 inches tall. So we'll just grab 2 for right now. We're going to find the center. Find the center. The lining fabric that I am using is my Renew canvas. It's made from recycled water bottles, and it is waterproof. That doesn't mean pour water in it, but it will hold up to some water. Okay, right sides together. I was like, wait, where's my center? Okay, and then this is a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Starting at the pocket and sewing on, and repeating that for the other one. The lining fabric I'm using is not directional, but if it was, you may want to kind of reverse engineer the placement so that your print isn't upside down in the pocket. Okay, and then we're going to flip that down and top stitch through the lining. Okay, I'll set that aside for right now, and we're going to grab these other 2 pieces. So we are now going to add this piece Okay, let's make these marks first. There are some measurements given that we want to mark out. And they're different for the handbag versus the tote. So be mindful of that. And during the class, Jenny mentioned sometimes it's helpful to mark out that seam allowance here. So you can make like a little L shape, but you don't necessarily want to sew the L shape, but you can. I think it's kind of a better way to hide your stitches. So I'm going to do that. You just want to be very careful that you're not sewing past it when you backstitch or pivot. This is creating a slip pocket, and the measurement is not from the pocket, it's from the edge of that panel. Alrighty. So here we go. Lining is up, and we are attaching this to that top panel at the moment. So what was our top panel is now like our second middle panel. And we're going to clip that, lining up the sides. And then since you don't sew through the center here, Jenny was mentioning that she finds her center mark and clips it right here to keep everything together a little bit better. And then you're just going to fold it out of the way as you're sewing, only on the marked line. But yeah, we cannot have that backstitched L. And now I know that. And that's not great. Hey Siri, remind me to edit my video 52 minutes in. Making sure to backstitch. I'm going to slowly unclip. I'm going to unclip right here as well, so that this can all sit flat. We're going to get to that line, and then we can also tie that off. And then for this side, oh, I can't do that. I have very specific directions in which I will sew. Handle isn't twisted or anything, and then continue sewing and back stitching. And then to double check that we got everything, we can unclip and go, yes, it looks good. We've got part of a sneaky little slip pocket. I like the way this is looking. This is a real trust the process kind of situation here. All right, so again, I flipped this side up. We're lining up our sides first. Flipping the lining pocket out of the way, and I can see the center here. Line up here. Make sure everything is straight, nothing's twisted or missing. And we can back stitch. Make sure our handle is straight. All right. I've got a little thread poking through. So before I get too far with it, I can just pull that back and it'll be okay. So pretty. Alrighty, so now we're going to attach the bow. And we want to be careful to put this through the top and bottom. Not just one of those holes, but both. And I taped that together, but maybe I should have taped that center down too. Might help a little. So I'm gonna grab a bigger piece here. Oh, just do 1/2 inch. Oh, I don't need that. Thank you though. You could have also like glued this when you started, if you made it when you were supposed to, and then the glue would probably be dry by then. Okay. And that'll wrap around. And then we're going to pull that back through. You could use hemostats for this. And I think I'm gonna try to tape the bow ends in opposite directions. Well, no, that wouldn't work because this gets flipped up. You're top stitching down and in. So let's just follow the directions. Wrap the bow center around the bow, pushing the end of the bow through the slits. Flip. Use double-sided tape to adhere the bottom piece of the bow center to the seam allowance of the accent stripe. Okay. Fold the top piece of the bow center down. Wrong sides together with the bottom piece of the bow center. Yeah, okay. So we're taping these together. Because I noticed that that was one thing that happened with the people in class, like their bow didn't quite sit just perfectly if you didn't have this perfectly situated. You want it to be just tight enough, not too tight, not pulled in weird directions. So then we'll clip that together. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. And that is the end of those directions. So now we're going to top stitch the bottom stripe, the accent stripe. Slip pocket lining up and out of the way, double check that the ends of the bow center stayed in place and will be sewn over with this top stitching because we are folding that seam allowance up. You are not top stitching on your main panel area, you're top stitching on that accent. Slip pockets out of the way. Everything else is out of the way. And this is why this piece doesn't need any interfacing, because the seam allowance is close enough to it. And we're going to smoosh the bow out of the way. And you don't need to get everything to lay flat right away. You just need a couple feet in front of you to be laying flat. Feet, a couple inches. I'm holding everything in place to fold that up. Voila. She is cute. Dang. Okay. So this side will be a little bit easier because we don't have to worry about the bow, but I got a new rug down here and it's super squishy. There we go. It has a very thick edge because it's like a bath mat. Anyway. But you could choose to just fully omit the bow if it is not your vibe. And it's still a really cute pattern. Alrighty. So with that all done, we're going to be working on adding the other lining. And this is going to get attached. Oh, that's why you don't sew the L. Here. And you're lining that up and you're kind of pressing open the seam here. Okay. Of course, I wasn't in the class for this part. Okay. She says to tape it. I'm going to tape it. Let's see what happens. Okay. Okay, it's open. Okay. It's folded open. that'll get set down. You won't even know what happened. So we'll be able to close these up. So I'm gonna fold this up and out of the way. And get as close as possible. Now you've got a nice little sneaky slip pocket. And then later on, we're going to add a rivet at the top to help those sit nicely. Okay, so we need our other lining piece. Lining that up. And honestly, what I ended up doing for the one I made is I basted it to this piece first. Just because I couldn't really see otherwise. And again, you can't do that, Elle. This is kind of ruining my bag, but it's okay. Okay. I think this is why so many people had trouble in class too, is they thought to sew the L, and a lot of people did, but that's a hindrance. So I don't know what they did. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't in class for that. But I just think this doesn't hurt to add this little basting stitch as long as you're not catching anything you shouldn't. And then you just know it's there. And like for me, I just feel like I'm gonna fight things a little bit less. Unlike my chair wheels. There we go. All right, pressing that seam allowance open. Stitching through the bottom. Your strap is down. Whoop. And then we're going to sew this packet. I And you want your snap hooks, nope, your D-rings to be on opposite sides of the bag. You could also choose to just add one D-ring to one side of the bag. That is not where your crossbody strap attaches, just so you know. Okay. And now we have not added our nameplate yet, but I do want to do that. I have a bunch of little scraps of foam pre-cut that I'm going to snip through to help stabilize my nameplate. I'm going to grab my nameplate, flip the pocket out of the way. And this is going to go centered at the bottom, and I love having my little 2.5-inch ruler. I think it's kind of perfect from the bottom, centering my nameplate. And my nameplate is just 2 inches wide, so I don't have to think about it at all. I'll mark my slits very carefully. You don't want these to be too big. You want them to be extremely parallel in all directions, which doesn't make sense, but we'll slide that through. We'll add our foam. And then we'll add our washer, and then you can also add double-sided tape. But I press that nice and flat, and it just gives it this really fun little puff effect. And that interfacing isn't fused, so it's not something you can see, which I like. Okay. So now is the time we will put right sides together. Lining up all of our seams, which should line up at this point. Clip. The sides together. And then I like to clip at the top and the bottom as well, just to help me hold everything in place. And then this is a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Oh my God.
Would you like some popcorn?
No.
I brought a popcorn bucket.
Nice. Is that still recording?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for not lying. I saw it in your face. That you were going to be like, no.
Oh no, I was trying to see if it actually was.
Oh, okay.
I saw the square, so I wanted to look at make sure the numbers were going up.
Mm-hmm.
get to filming.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Love you too. Okay. Now that we've got that done, I'm going to place these right sides together. I'm just debating, and I do want to top stitch the base. I think just like maybe an inch from the edge would be good. I just think this helps prevent your stabilizer from lifting accidentally. It kind of looks nice. All right. So long thread tails so that we can tie off to the back. Pull on your thread before you get to it. And then you could tie this now. Sometimes I get confused, especially if I'm not using a variegated thread. I'm like, wait, which is which? I don't know at this point. Alrighty, now we can attach this to the base. Because this vinyl has a bit of a slick surface, I am going to staple it into place. It's just a little bit safer. But first I'm going to clip. I start in the centers and work my way out just a little bit, not all the way, and then we find our side, clip that, and then we finish working our way from the center of the bag out into the curves. Kind of pressing it down so that our raw edges line up. All the while our D-rings do a little jingle jangle. I bought myself a fancier stapler. And just very gently, at like 1/8 of an inch. You can staple the whole thing if you want, but I think just in between the clips is enough to help keep things lined up. And now 3/8 inch seam allowance. I'm letting the machine do most of the work as far as pulling. And now we're at the side. And we just want to keep the bag as round as we can. Is our bobbin betraying us? No, okay. It's a different thread. Okay, I'm coming up on the other half of my curve. So I'm readjusting the bag to keep the raw ends lined up. And now we're on a flat spot, so I'm flattening out the bag. Bobbin is still good? Yep. Okay, we're coming back to another curve, so I want to reshape the bag into the shape it's going to be when it's done. You want to do that when your needle is down. Rookie move. Okay, I'm doing another couple stitches. Reshaping. Another couple inches. Well, not even inches, another couple stitches. Truly. Okay, and then we're back to the beginning. And I'm just going to do a second row of stitching out a little bit further, but avoiding my staples. Because if I trim this seam allowance and get real close, the vinyl might kind of peek through a little bit. And I don't want that. I don't think I finished that thought. I got sidetracked. Oh, okay, cool. Okay. So now I can trim that seam allowance down. And if you don't trust yourself, then remove your staples first. But I'm going slow enough around them that I'm not cutting through them. When I used to use Fiskars, I didn't care. Now I'm like, no. Protect the scissors. I protect the scissors. Okay, there's one that I'm not going to be able to safely get around. Oh, two. So I'll remove those with a staple remover. And then make sure that all goes in the trash too. Where is my staple remover? Oh, that cute little handle though. So I just have two. So wriggle out. place the sword sheath. All right. So if you really don't trust yourself and your sewing skills, you may want to turn that right side out really quick, but if you can prevent doing that, I would. It'll just save you some more time. But now we can work on our lining. Got all kinds of pieces here for the lining. Yeah, I did. Okay. I was like, did I cut that? I hope I did. All right, so we've got our zipper panel pieces. I like to cut 2 out of exterior and 2 out of lining, but that is totally up to your discretion. And then I like to cut my connectors in 1 long strip, top stitch, and cut. But again, up to your discretion. And I ended up using vinyl for this instead of my lining because I know this vinyl is thin enough that it's not going to cause an issue. Clip this together and set that aside for now. All right, and then we're going to grab our little slip pocket with overlay and our slip pocket lining. We're going to make a mark along the bottom edge so that we can fold it down. That is not what I wanted to do. Get out of here. And that measurement is the same no matter which version of the bag you are making. Tell me how. I've lost my marking pen and my marbles. Okay, whatever. And we'll tape that down. And then we'll tape that in place as well. And this gets lined up with the top raw edge here and kind of centered in place. You can flip it over and make sure everything looks good. And we're just going to top stitch underneath the opening, leaving your thread tails long. Bobbin. It has not betrayed me. Now the test is, will I forget to change it? It's actually long enough to tie off to. Thank goodness. Okay, I didn't pick zipper tape or pull, so I'm gonna have to do that. We'll need 2 zipper pulls. This is a really good place to add a label. You could flip your lining out of the way if you wanted. Before I get to that, I'm going to finish up my other lining pocket. Whatever the bottom is, that is where we are sewing across at a 3/8 inch. Don't you just love it? I didn't change the bobbin. Cool. And this bag really needs 2 full bobbins. Sadly, I don't have 2 full bobbins. I need to sew more. Man, that's a rookie move. We're going to press that flat and then together. And this is another great place to add a label. I am going to line up the top edges and just baste it together. Before I add a little vinyl accent. You could also iron that if need be. I want to see a little bit of that line, but not too much. And then we'll press the vinyl over it. Clipping that into place. Okay. And then you can add a woven label here if you'd like. Perfect. It's great. And we're going to mark the center. And then it's a 2.5 from each side, which I remember being like, oh, that's my ruler. My ruler, 2.5. Okay. I don't know why I didn't cut off this excess, but doesn't matter. All right, and this is tapered at the top, so be careful of that. And this is going to be some measurement up from the bottom. And if you need to use double-sided tape, you can. Just gonna hold it and pray. Okay, I'm gonna sew across the bottom first. Stop. The pattern match is eerie. All right, now that I've got that in place, we want to sew across to cut off the slip pocket, right? Or does it become a little slip pocket? And I'm stupid. Yeah, they become little. Love it. Okay. I see. Well, I'm gonna close them off. It's fine. Mostly because I didn't make it pretty enough on those sides. I could see how it would be really nice in the large size to have those side slip pockets though. So in the future, we'll keep that open. Okay, and then I'm gonna flip this over to baste along the side. And I'm gonna cut that extra. So pretty. Look at that pattern matching. That's why I gasped. I was like, what? You get out of here. Okay, so we've got our zipper pocket lining, we've got our zipper panel, our upper lining to go. So let me grab my zipper tape, because that's what we gotta do next. And this is gonna go a measurement down from the top edge, but we're gonna add some double-sided tape at the top and bottom of the zipper. Okay. And I am just very gently pressing this into place, the top, there. And we are going to sew around the slip pocket first. And I ended up adding rivets at the end of my slip pocket. All right, and then as we go along this curve, I lift the foot and I pivot just a little. So there goes that. Pivot, pivot, good to go. We're not sewing around the whole thing right now. We're just gonna go up and over and down. Long threads tie to the back. And I just feel, for the sake of longevity, adding a rivet there could potentially be good. If nothing else, it's kind of a fail-safe for if your stitches were to ever come undone from this area, like if you don't knot it enough, or if someone were to yank really hard on that slip pocket, your stitches could potentially break or come loose. And then at the very least, they'd have the rivet to help maintain it and maybe add some visual interest to this area. There is your little slip pocket. So cute. All right, so now we're gonna sew around the outermost edge as if it were a regular overlay. And that's where you're also closing the top of that pocket. And this has a little curve. So we're just going to take it stitch by stitch. And start and stop in the same location. And then pull on the 2 threads you have left. And if you get confused, just clip the 2 together that go together. So now I don't have to worry about those, I just need to worry about these 2. Otherwise your tension is not good. Okay. These 2. Well, if I said I was going to stop for zipper tape, but I'm like, not until I absolutely need to. Because part of me is like, it's 11 p.m., go to bed. But honestly, we're pretty close to done. So then we are going to cut away our lining fabric just around the overlay. And I love using my Kai scissors for this. They're super sharp and they just slice through only what I need them to right here. Just the tip. Bada boom. You could also add a little woven label under there if you would like to. All right. Oh, hi. Adding my zipper pulls to my zipper tape. You'll have one shorter, one longer. For the longer one, I'm going to go ahead and use a lighter on the ends to square off. So just open it slightly. Let's see. Yeah, just open it slightly and turn it and add a little clip. I'm going to take my lighter, melt the edges, and press. That'll hold it together. And then repeat that on the other side. I just apply the fire till it gets melty. It is secure. All right, so that is going to be for my zipper panel, not my zipper pocket. Right now for our zipper pocket, we're going to add our zipper to the top edge, right sides together of our zipper pocket lining. Some people might prefer like a method where you just tape things together here, and you could absolutely do that. Tape and then sew. I just like the sound of my sewing machine. Evermore, could you not knock the pen off? No, just knock it off then. All right, cool. Just a baby. Okay. Now we've got that attached. I am going to do the thing where you just add the one line. It's not, oh, well, that's gone forever. truly. Yeah, it does give a cleaner finish in the end, so I'm gonna do it. Darn it, Shannon. As I'm filming this, it is currently Jenny Green's birthday and Shannon Tim Chula's birthday. So it's a good day to be a designer. Good day to be born. To be a bag designer. Anyway. So taping one side down first, pressing that, and I'll tape the other. Sewing that first, pulling threads to the back. I think for me doing this is one of those like I'm gonna learn to love what I hate. And I used to hate tying off threads, and now I'm like, I can do it. I'm gonna accomplish it. And I used to avoid if I had to make multiple stitches on a zipper pocket. Now I'm like, I'm gonna do it because I love it. All right, and then we're gonna fold this one down nice and flat. Press that down. I like to do those separately so it's a really nice crisp edge. And then I'll pull this in. And then just press everything flat. Long thread tails. Girl, what is you doing? Needle down. And pivot. I'm unzipping until about the middle, and then I can re-zip. That'll be completely out of the way. Pull our threads to the back. Okay, we're going to trim the bottom. You want everything laying flat. This is the way it's going to sit in the end. So don't try to make them even. There's that. And then we're going to flip this over. And I like to sew across the zipper teeth too. And I'll fold this up. We're going to turn the bag part way through the zipper pocket, so I leave that open. I just like to fold it up and out of the way. And then up over the teeth. I didn't cut a base. Dang it. Dang it. I didn't cut a base. Didn't freaking cut my base. I don't have the template here anymore. Well said. What are we gonna do? It's fine. I don't freaking know. Reprint the pattern, I guess. Okay, so these are going to be placed on the same edge. These are your crossbody connectors. So I'm just going to make a mark. Still like, where did my pen go? Oh, it's right there. It just blended in with the wall. Great. 3/4 inch. Dang it, I said it. Same side, because when you put them together, they will be opposite. Don't ask why. Just trust the process. It's going to go on the inside of that line, and I'm going to keep it in the seam allowance by about 1/4 inch. Because later on, we're going to rivet that to our upper lining. I'm seriously tempted to sew the bag without the bottom and then just sew the bottom on. I think I can do it. I'm not going to do it. Oh, good. Didn't go far. All right. For our zipper panel, we are going to mark 1 inch in from the short edge. This is your pretty basic zipper panel. Nothing fancy-dancy here. So I like to use 1/2 inch wide tape for this. So I can fold that edge on itself and know it's really secure. You can use separate pieces. And then since this is my top and my print kind of has this repeat there, I'll tape that just so I know where my zipper is going to go. So there's that part. We'll fold this. I am less concerned with the print repeating on the lining side because I didn't cut it to repeat. Didn't I? No. Dang it. It does. But I don't care. So then we'll pair one side lining, one side exterior. Pressing the zipper tape, starting anywhere from 1/4 to 1/8 from that top edge. And pressing all that together. Renew canvas does not like tape, I am noticing. And then you could do 3/8 or 1/4 of an inch on the zipper panel, whichever you feel like you're more capable of. I'm going to press my lining away firmly first. And then press this down, and if there's any excess bulk at this corner here, you could either compress it or cut it away carefully. Just make sure everything sits nicely on top of itself. And then when you're top stitching this, just make sure you begin somewhere that's going to be hidden by a seam. And then we're just going to repeat all that on the other side. Make sure that you've got your exteriors together. And because we already pre-taped it, we really don't need to think about where to set this up so that our print repeats correctly. It's already going to do it. Clip that. And then again, that 3/8. I really am going to finish sewing this bag without the lining bottom panel. Committed at this point. All right, then we want to mark the center of our zipper panel. And I like to attach this to the side with the zipper pocket first so that our zipper pulls are going in the same direction. I'm just going to place that down. Are we really out of bobbin? Are you serious right now? You're serious? You can't be serious. You're serious? You're for real, for real. All right, I'm gonna use pink. I guess like 2.5 bobbins, depending on how much stitching you do. I am using pink for my bobbin because I think it'll be fine. But also, thanks to my bobbin for getting me through all that. You also want to make sure that you're attaching all of this to the top straight edge of the lining, not the bottom edge that has a curve. We're clipping our upper lining piece into place and moving our D-ring out of the way. Do not sew through that. And then this is going to be a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And then this is going to be a perky zipper panel. So we're going to press our seam allowance down and our zipper panel up. And we're sewing underneath it. And then we're going to end up adding a rivet through this little D-ring connector here. Flip that. We're on the other side of the lining now. Line that up. I like to base that in place. And then we'll add our other upper lining panel. In the cutting video, I explained that sometimes for the upper lining, I'll choose to use a vinyl. But if I do, it has to be a vinyl that isn't too thick. And it would only be to give that top edge a little more structure. And then just make sure that you're moving that other one out of the way. So that you don't accidentally sew through it. And now we're only going to take the lining that we just attached that upper panel to and press that down. You shouldn't catch this piece. No, we won't, so I'm not gonna worry about it. We're sewing under. Okay. So then we're going to add a rivet right underneath that D-ring. And you see now that these are on opposite sides. But first, we put them on the same side. So keep doing that. Okay, we're going to add our hole only through the lining and the connector and attach your rivet. You could also add a little square of Decaville Heavy, should you wish. All right. So everything is now top stitched. My D-rings are riveted. We're going to unzip that just a little bit. You can add your zipper end now if you wish. We're going to attach the lining panels together using a 3/8 inch increasing to a 1/2 inch. So starting at 3/8, watching out for that D-ring. And then as we get to the bottom, increase to 1/2. This is going to keep it nice and tight to the bag. And then down at the bottom, I'm just decreasing my seam allowance a little bit. Not by a bunch, just a little. Repeating that on the other side. And then we're going to attach the lining bottom. You will. I'm not, because I don't have one. I'll have one later. But I'm going to attach the lining bottom on through this zipper pocket, so I just won't close that. All right, increasing to a 1/2. Unzip our zipper, attach your bottom. We'll flip that. And you could even clip your zipper panel to your pockets. Just be careful. And then I prefer my zipper pocket to be placed at the back of the bag. Making sure everything is down inside. Lining up our side seams. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my cylinder arm. It has white thread in it already. Oh man, so why not? And I have it, I want to use it more, and there's no time like the present to do as you say you're going to do. Slowly clipping around all of this. You could also add some staples to this upper panel if you feel like you're worried things might shift. But I'll go ahead and set up. I mean, if I can't add a bottom panel, I'll at least use my cylinder arm, right? Bobbin looks pretty full. So making sure I've got nice long thread tails. Go ahead and get started here. I don't know why I'm talking like that. I'm so sorry. Oh, turn it on. That helps. One, 2, 3. And I actually purchased the open toe walking foot for this machine, but I have not used it. Okay. The cylinder arm that I'm using is the Thor 1341. This is a compound walking foot machine. So the needle moves, the feed dogs move, and the foot moves, sorry. Two things at once. And it's supposed to help you maintain the layers of your materials better and help kind of walk through thicker things. And it also has a hump jumper built in. So when you're going over thicker materials, you can increase the height of the foot so that you don't lose tension. I have mine set up as a pedestal table. I have owned 2 other cylinder arms, I know, I'm so sorry, with a U-shaped table, and I just absolutely hated it. But that could also just be I wasn't committed to using it as much as I should have been. Okay, looks good. So now we'll go ahead and add snips along the curves. But if you wanted to, you could also, you know, kind of take out some chunks of the curves, but I don't think the shape of this bag is gonna really be altered by that too much. So totally up to you. So then you can turn this through an opening left in the bottom, not the bottom without a bottom completely, and then seal it through the zipper pocket. But it is much easier to berth it through the bottom. I always start with what's furthest away, so I'm reaching through the bottom first to pull that out, and the quicker you can do that, the better, because it's less chance for wrinklage on your interfacing, depending on what you used and your materials. So then as we turned this, I want to make sure that our lining and our exterior are well separated, and having that Decaville light at the top just really helps ensure a crisp edge along that top. Just make sure that everything is out of the way and seated nicely. If you used a really thick vinyl, taking little triangle chunks out at the curve here can really help reduce bulk. I'm going to clip along the top edge, and I'm kind of rolling my lining a little bit further back if I can, so it doesn't peek out over the top. Everything looks so pretty. I want these on opposite sides of the bag. Not that that's really gonna matter right now, but then again, if you can press, maybe clip your zipper pocket down and out of the way, will just be that much more helpful while you top stitch. Okay, so I've got my threads in hand. But another thing I can do is just slowly lower my needle, and then I'm not gonna have that intense backlash. We'll just go slow. No, my thread is shredding. It was my fault for pulling on it too hard. Oh, okay, so that was a really good example of the bulk. You know what, let's just start over, because my thread is shredding up here. We don't have enough stitches in to matter. So all I need to do is pull this out. Better to do it now and then hate it later. Okay. And so yeah, like I said, I pulled on my thread while there was still too much tension in these discs. And if you want to release that tension, you just press that lever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull past that, cut that away, and then rethread this area. And I'll just check my needle. It feels good. Rethread it. Hello. Okay. Here we go. Much better. Needle back up. Lower that down. And away we go. Okay, right now we've got some bulk that we are sewing over, and my foot pressure is too low, so that's when we just need to crank that up a little bit and things will walk smoother. And I am keeping the inner edge of my foot lined up with the outer edge of my fabric as best as I can. All right, we're coming up on another area of bulk. We should be okay. Make sure my zipper panel's out of the way. Et voila. Oh, hey, Ben. Yes, sir. All right, and then we can tie those off and hide them in the side seam. And all we need to do is finish this off with rivets. And the bottom of the lining. We are going to mark 3/4 of an inch down, centered on our handle. Making sure your D-ring is where you want it. And you're gonna lay that at like 3/8 and 3/4 at the top. Oh, that's funny. It's like right in the middle of that flower. And so what I do is I'm gonna hole punch this first, just my handle. And then we'll make that hole. Make sure the bulk of what you've taken away is out of the way. And it's a little less scary than making a hole through all of that at one time. And then we'll add our post through the back, out the front. Depending on your vinyl, you may need a 9x12, but the 9x9 usually works. Through the back to the front. And you can see how much of a difference that makes in the handle, keeping everything together. Make sure that your zipper panel is out of the way. Is that in the right spot? Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then we'll press those, and then presto is done. These are not your crossbody connectors. These are, just to put that into perspective for you. These sit in a much nicer location. They're almost centered, but they're still off, so that there isn't a lot of bulk right in the middle. Unzip the zipper, that'll help. Because you want all of these layers to be seated as flat as you can. There we go. Find that placement. Dang it. That one really went sideways. I don't understand why it keeps happening. Like, that one was so crooked, it was like insanely easy to take out. And there she blows. A mostly finished Rachel handbag. Hopefully yours is more finished than mine. Thank you so much for watching. If you are not already subscribed, I understand why. I probably wouldn't either at this point. If you are still subscribed, thanks. I really appreciate you. I hope you have a good day, and I will see you later. Bye.